I have for the longest time been completely sabotaged by the Danish state and its intelligence agency, PET. In this regard, they have been placing embargoes and restrictions on my ability to earn money through my small business, one-stop engine shop, and even privately. Since the beginning of 2020, when I established my small business, they have been restricting all of my sales like 90 to 95% of the time. They have continuously throughout seek to destroy my arrangements with my retailers of scooter and engine parts here in Denmark. They have outright prohibited me from making new and better arrangements with other retailers internationally, both in Germany and in the UK. They have pressured both DBA and Gula Gratis from allowing me to run my ads on their platforms without major paywalls. While it is very clear to see that other people in the same kind of business and on the same kind of level as me are being allowed to use these platforms without the same restrictions that are being put on me. The Danish state, and especially its intelligence agency PET, are running continuous propaganda and psyops on me and my ability as a small engines mechanic, not to mention my products that I have for sale on my website. These campaigns that are going on are relentless and continuous, and without any merit whatsoever. The same state actors will often use the program's synthetic telepathy communication system to coerce people to sabotage all of my sales ads on Facebook and previously on DBA as well. They will likewise coerce people and or customers who have bought something from me to make bogus complaints about the products that they have purchased from me. And 9 times out of 10, I'll ask the engine or scooter to be returned so I can inspect it for myself. And notwithstanding the supposed faults which they are proclaiming, I will never see part or scooter be returned to me, and instead their complaints will continue endlessly without any conclusion, and many times even without my knowledge. And PET will use these of them created situations as justification to prohibit people from purchasing their scooters, engines and parts from me. As I say, 90 to 95% of the time, people are being outright prohibited from buying from me. And increasingly, the Danish state will place ultimatums, so that if you buy something from me, you will have to create a problem out of the purchase regardless. So, at least over the last many months, a considerate number of my customers have been bad apples, who are willing to lie, cheat and in some cases steal from me, regardless of the fact that their purchase has been completely without fault. Furthermore, generally speaking, people are good, but it would seem that the majority of people who are willing to purchase from me under these circumstances that are continuously being implemented and controlled by the Danish state and its intelligence agency PET are not normal people from the general public, but instead bad apples, because obviously most people are not willing to lie, cheat and steal just because the government is telling them to do so. So the people who I'm selling to lately clearly have ulterior motives with their purchases, and this can be seen time and again over the last many months, which is something that I have highlighted several times already. Over the last 2 months, my sales have been almost completely prohibited, despite me having proven publicly how the multiple proclaimed faults with my engines and scooters have been completely without merit. And even more than that, I have proven how these situations are completely and utterly staged and controlled by the state through the use of the program's communication systems and members of the public as the state's de facto proxies, who clearly have had ulterior motives with their purchases. For instance, on the 6th of September 2021 was clearly with the sole intent to coerce me into a physical altercation with the person who bought an engine from me and most likely multiple others on my address of all places, so that the state could claim that I was not a legitimate business and use this completely fabricated complaint about my engine as the pretext to do so. Not to mention how this staged situations are being announced over the program's propaganda channels days in advance publicly. Situations like the one from the 6th of September have been happening over the last many months time and again. Maybe not to the same magnitude, but bad apples have continuously sought, on behalf of the government and its intelligence agency, to sabotage me, Stephen Bell, my small business, one-stop engine shop, without any good reasons whatsoever. On the 13th of September 2021, I opened a business account on DBA, and in 3 days I have had almost 2,000 views of my products on this platform alone. The same kind of numbers, if not more, are also on Facebook. There are 54 people on DBA alone that have set my scooter's engines as favourites, meaning that they are particularly interested. And on my scooter, PGO Hot 50 has had 509 views in under 3 days on DBA alone, and 24 of these people are interested in purchasing this scooter of mine, and yet nobody is allowed to buy it. In fact, I have had this for sale for more than a year, and I have had combined thousands of people who have viewed this item, and probably had more than 100 people who actually wanted to buy this from me over this time period, but who have been restricted from doing so by the Danish state and its intelligence agency, PET, who are announcing these prohibitions over the public, over the program's dedicated communication channels. And this is just one item out of all of the engines, scooters and parts that I have for sale on my website and Facebook. In fact, the views I get on Facebook on my items are also being manipulated with by Facebook. One day I can receive hundreds of views on an item, and when you reach a certain level completely arbitrarily defined by Facebook, these numbers will start to go backwards continuously. I have multiple examples of this happening. Another outrageous example of the state's interference, not only in my rights and freedoms, but the people in general. I both build and sell Minarelli engines, 50cc and 70cc tuned. And again, many people are interested and want to buy engines from me, but they are simply not allowed. Again, because the government has arbitrarily decided that people cannot buy their Minarelli engines from me. And not just over the last 2 months either, I'm talking month after month, where I have had these engines on stock and had huge interest, and yet I haven't had one single purchase of any of these engines. So it's so in your face how the Danish government and its intelligence agencies are prohibiting the Danish population more and more as time progresses, using this saga, a.k.a. the social and political persecution of me, Stephen Bell, as the pretext for dictating and micromanaging over the publics at large. Furthermore, it's not just my small business one-stop engine shop which is being completely sabotaged. It's also my private sales on DBA and Facebook that are under severe and constant attack by the state, who are actively seeking to have me thrown off DBA again for no good reason, coercing and enticing dozens and dozens of people a week to inquire about my items that I have for sale, both privately and business-wise, while these inquiries are completely nonsense or harassment, in other words, just using my sales ads as the pretext to endlessly inquire without having any intention whatsoever to actually purchase something from me. Furthermore, the intelligence agency, PET, is also always inventing these arbitrary psyop games. So the completely indoctrinated and mind-numb people who endlessly contact me, they truly believe if they ask me about my items that I have for sale, and I answer yes in the positive, for example, is this item available, then that is equivalent of me confessing to a heinous crime, in which I'm being labelled guilty for extrajudicially in the government's propaganda, campaigns and virtual movie fabrications, without me personally having any involvement or even awareness whatsoever. It is exactly the same way when they ask how fast can this scooter go, for example, and my answer is 70 kilometers an hour. Well, then I'm guilty of having committed 7 counts of any of the government's arbitrarily defined heinous crimes. These are just a couple of examples of the absolute nonsense and ridiculousness which is being implemented as PSYOP games by the state arbiters of the program, who are always seeking to involve the public in their social and political persecution of me. And talking about injunctions and embargoes, I very recently had a hugely popular NVIDIA RTX 3080 Ti for sale for a month before I was allowed to sell it. And you already know the stocks on these graphics cards have been completely low. And mind you, over the last couple of weeks, I was trying to sell mine nearly the same price which I have bought it. And under normal circumstances, these graphics card would have sold in a couple of days and I would have earned a decent profit. But no, this is prohibited by the state. This is also why I can't get rid of my AMD RS66 XT cards that I have for sale, and the stocks are completely empty, despite having multiple people interested in buying them right here and now. And it all boils down to that I, Stephen Bell, am not allowed to earn money, prosper, or have any success in anything in life, because all of these things contradict the state arbiters of the program, including those in the United States government and intelligence community, endless propaganda narratives supposedly about me. These narratives are being mass broadcasted all over the world on a global basis by this conglomerate of states and their intelligence agencies in connection to this global social engineering and intelligence operation.